Good morning from unusually wet San Antonio. Today we're going to look at toxic exposure to TCE. Before we get started, this presentation is from the San Antonio Coalition of Veterans and Families. Our mission, the immediate assistance for homeless veterans. Please feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Very helpful for us in what we do. Creators of this presentation, Mike Yeager and Bob Kosel, the presenter, me, Bob Kosel. This presentation is one in a series we plan to do on toxic exposures, obviously a big issue if you're a veteran. The goals. We'll provide a description of what TCE is. We'll review products that contain TCE. We'll review common exposure mechanisms for TCE. We'll review health conditions linked to TCE. We'll review the elements needed in a TCE claim for service connection. And we like to provide references, research articles, and appeals cases to help veterans form their own claims for TCE. So what is TCE? Trichloroethylene. Going back to my high school science days, TCE is a simple 6-atom, 2-carbon, 1 hydrogen, and 3 chlorines solvent that is clear, colorless, volatile, inflammable, and environmentally persistent. It was first synthesized in the lab 1864, and it's been around and produced for the last 100 years. The VA consists TCE exposure is a toxic exposure risk activity, TARA. And if you think you're exposed, you might consider contacting the VA and putting in a TARA exposure statement, which could be helpful for your claim down the road. TCE continued. Because of its unique properties, TCE has had countless industrial, commercial, military, and medical applications. And you find it in chlorinated compounds, stuff like refrigerants, cleaning for electronics and other degreasing engine parts, and for civilian and military purposes. So it's in our environment. And there's a link to an NIH article that discusses this. Products containing TCE. I'm only going over the highlighted ones, but I thought these were ones that you could easily find in the military. Adhesives, aerosol cleaning products, cleaners and solvent degreasers, cleaning wipes, gun cleaners, lubricants, paint and paint removers, refrigerants, sealants, and tool cleaners. And again, many other things that are commonly used. Industrial uses, again, I highlighted some that I thought military connected. Automotive care, degreasing, computer and electronics, disinfectants, machinery, paint and coating, refrigerants and soaps, and there's other things that contain TCE. Occupations where TCE may occur: aircraft maintenance workers, communications, equipment repairers, computer specialists, corrosive control technicians, embalmers, jet engine mechanics, mechanics in general, metal treatment workers, missile technicians, nautical equipment, oil processors, painters, radar techs, textile and fabric cleaners, weapons specialists. Again, many of these directly linked to the military. Medical uses in an anesthesia, surgical disinfectant, treatment, and pharmaceutical manufacturing. And you can read more about this at the link provided. Map the kind of timeline of TCE. Not going over much of it, but I was impressed that 15 years ago, the the European Union started to ban this, and some states have really cut down on TCE exposures. Uh, Again, yeah, take time at your look. You can see how it's grown. It's more and more used, especially with equipment decreasers. So how do you get exposed? Drinking water, inhalation, contact. And TCE is one of the prevalent chemicals in Camp Lejeune drinking water. And Camp Lejeune drinking water exposure, 30 days or more from 53 to 87, is considered presumptive by the VA. I have a picture of the environment and TCE exposure. So you have vapor inhalation, water contamination, groundwater, soil contamination, on-air release, all of this very prevalent in our society. So, health conditions linked to TCE. For the cancers, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, kidney and liver, the effects, immune system, central nervous system, male reproductive system. Again, the source, an NIH article, which I provided. Possible autoimmune diseases linked to TCE, scleroderma, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's, and generalized hypersensitivity to skin disorder. Other health conditions recently, it suggests that TCE and Parkinson's, there's a link, and we provide information in a Bill's case on this. Health conditions, I wanted to include diabetes, and we do give a case on diabetes. Diabetes type 1 can get lumped in with autoimmune conditions. Not clear that type 2 fits this description. Currently, the link between diabetes and TCE is not considered a strong one. Okay, we still provide a case, but this is something where if you're looking for research, you may not find much at this time, but there's always new stuff coming out. Prostate cancer, I give a link to a Camp Lejeune case for prostate cancer. Again, it wasn't listed with the others, so that's not as strong a link. TCE exposure is not considered presumptive by the VA, which means if you weren't at Camp Lejeune, you got to prove your case. So you have to have a medical diagnosis. You have to show exposure to TCE while in the service. You have to show frequency and severity that could cause possible harm. You need a medical opinion linking the exposure, a nexus level. Supporting evidence is always helpful. Research articles, buddy statements. Start with a medical diagnosis. If you don't have a medical diagnosis of something that could be linked to TCE, you don't have a claim. Exposure to TCE while in the service. The veteran must provide a plausible explanation on how they encountered TCE. I give some examples. I was a diesel mechanic and used degreasers to clean tools every day. I use cleaning supplies to clean electronic equipment every day. My duties regularly put me in missile silos. Your DD-214 will list your military occupation. So this will be looked at and considered. Frequency and severity that could cause possible harm. The veteran can do this in several ways. Certainly, they need to stress their job called for them to be in contact with products containing TCE every day, every duty day. This is true. Okay. Stress that they were not issued protective equipment, gloves, masks, etc., for use while engaging in the activities using TCE TCE products if this is true. I use cleaning wipes every day. I use degreasers every day. We weren't issued gloves. We weren't told to use gloves. A nexus letter. To win a claim, the veteran will need to have a nexus letter from a doctor that claims that it is at least likely or not that the diagnosis is linked to the veteran's military time and exposure to TCE. The doctor will need to review your military records if possible, and research and any research you can provide on the link to TCE in your condition. A positive nexus letter is considered as very valuable evidence. The VA gives equal weight to doctors outside and inside, provided they're on equal levels. And what I mean by that is your oncologist says your cancer is from versus a general doctor. If they have someone with a specialty looking at you, service organization can help you with that. Supporting evidence, research articles, buddy statements, etc. Research articles. Some very good ones are provided in this presentation. You can use the internet to find others to support your case. New research is coming out all the time, so you want to take the time to look. Buddy statements from individuals you served with can be very helpful. You might have someone you served with who says, yes, they never issued us protective equipment. I worked there too. So something to think about if you have access. Appeals cases. The Veterans Appeal cases can be very powerful in showing a similar case where similar cases were successful and granted service connection. These cases can also assist in developing your own case. And we've included some successful appeals cases. They don't mean you'll win automatically because your circumstance may not be identical to the ones in the appeals cases. But as a blueprint of how to move forward, they're very helpful. Presenting your case. You need to work with a veteran service officer. You need their opinion on the evidence you gathered, help in gathering evidence, and preparing the strongest case possible. There is a reasonable chance that your case will be turned down at regional office level, and you will need assistance with strategizing and presenting your appeal. And again, we're using appeals cases. Those were all turned down at regional office level. Successful appeals cases. Okay. We've included successful appeal cases. There are many claims that are not successful. Success is dependent on many factors to include details of military duty, exposure details, strength of the nexus letter submitted. These cases are offered to be studied, analyzed, and assist in preparing your case. Use a veteran service officer to determine the best possible presentation of your claim. Okay, appeals cases from Camp Lejeune. If Camp Lejeune is presumptive now, why did I include this? Because there are many cases in public record from Camp Lejeune before it became presumptive as part of the PACT Act. So you're going to encounter some when you look at this. So again, I presented more information on Camp Lejeune at the link. And Camp Lejeune didn't only have TCE, it had PCE, benzene, vinyl chloride in the water. Okay, the following cases are not Camp Lejeune cases. They're pure TCE exposure claims. This is a case for TCE and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. This case is TCE and scleroderma. This case is TCE and Parkinson's. And there's recent medical research on TCE and Parkinson's. And again, this is an appeals case. TCE and renal cancer. This is not actually a claim by a veteran. This is a surviving spouse's dependency indemnity compensation claim. So in other words, the veteran had died. TCE and prostate cancer. The following is from EPA TCE draft risk assessment, and we'll provide that later. Their studies considered as a whole that TCE exposure with excess risk of kidney cancer, liver cancer, lymphohematopoietic, I hope I pronounced that right, which is blood production cancer, cervical cancer, prostate cancer. And I have an actual appeals case that cites the EPA study in the link. TCE and diabetes. I want to reemphasize this. Type 1 diabetes is considered an autoimmune disease. This doesn't cover type 2. We included successful appeals for diabetes and TCE on the next slide. This case really hinged on the nexus letter from the doctor. Diabetes at this time is not widely accepted as linked to TCE exposure. This is the actual diabetes case. Again, the strong nexus letter from the doctor seems to be the determining factor. Articles and research. Okay, this is from the Agency for Toxic Substance and Disease Registry, ATSDR on TCE. ATSDR is part of the CDC. Okay. And you go through, it gives what they find. It could be powerful evidence if you have a claim. I found this New York Post article on missile silos and TCE exposure. Okay. Currently, DOD is studying doing an internal check of people who worked in missiles on their active duty people. And I couldn't find any research outside of that. But these are things you would want to look at if you thought you had a claim and you served in missiles. EPA TCE draft risk assessment. And this is the link to that. Again, powerful research on what comes from exposure from a reputable source, the EPA. Parkinson's and TCE, there's not that strong evidence as with some other things, but I have the feeling that this evidence is starting to be researched and to come out. And again, I give the link to a research article. Some other things, solvent exposure and Parkinson's disease risks in twins. Yeah, possibly a use. Twins are good to see what environmental exposures can cause. Some others, again, the Parkinson's evidence isn't strong at this time, but new evidence, new research will come out, and it's worth looking at if that's your case. So if you think you have a case, use the internet because you want the newest information on TCE and your medical condition. The appeals cases are in public record. And to find one specific to your situation, put in VA appeals, TCE, and your condition, and cases will pop up. Obviously, you want to use the ones that were successful. Okay, there's one last aspect to this. Camp Lejeune has brought into focus that there's contamination at bases, and there's certainly more contamination than just at Camp Lejeune. So it's worth looking at Was the base I was at exposed to TCE? Could this be evidence in my case? So use VA appeals, the bases you served at, one at a time, plus TCE. Again, can be powerful evidence in your case. I did this and found a couple bases, Kassel, Plattsburgh, places I wouldn't have thought of. So again, to recap, if you think you were exposed to TCE, you need to do a number of things. First thing is you can put in a terror report with the VA. At least there'll be evidence in your record. You can start looking on the internet for information, more information, research. Please use the articles we've included. Talk to a service organization about how to best prepare, research, present your claim. Good luck. Please feel free to use anything we provided. Again, good luck with your claim. Thank you for tuning in. We hope to do more on exposures in the future. Again, please feel free to hit the like and subscribe to our channel. Have a good day.